On March 24, 2022, Clark County Public Commissioner Robert Tellis would upload this video to his newly created YouTube channel in response to a series of allegations that were made against him.
Hello, I'm Rob Tellis, and I'm your Clark County Public Administrator. A few years ago, when I started my first term, I found a disturbing situation at the office. Unfortunately, I found that there were cases that weren't being closed and hadn't been closed for years. I also found that checks to families were waiting to go out so long that the checks went stale before the families could get them. Tragically, there were even situations where the family members died before they could receive their own checks. But I'm very happy to say that we've turned that all around under my leadership. My staff and I have increased our customer service levels. We are now closing cases, and we are also making sure that checks get in the hands of families even faster. And we do it for you. I'd like to ask you for your help now. I'd like to ask you to please be sure to vote for me in this year's election. Please be sure to tell your friends and family about it. This is an important race, and I need your help. I'm Rob Tellis, and I'm running for Clark County Public Administrator. Thank you.
I am Rob Tellis, and I approve this message.
Only to, 6 months later, be sitting in prison for murder. Welcome back to another episode of Dreading, or if this is your first time seeing my channel, welcome. Today we are going to be covering the currently developing case of Jeff German and how his reporting on political corruption resulted in his death. This topic was sent to me from one of my longest running subscribers who said she lived near Tellis and wanted to see this entire situation covered. They had a personal experience with the man who is being charged with the crime, and if what they say is true, this trial will be incredibly interesting to watch. This case has mostly been reported on by one paper, the Las Vegas Journal-Review, but hasn't been covered as in-depth by outside sources, which made this video a bit more difficult to produce. As this case is still currently developing, I plan on making a part 2 to this video when more information becomes available. This video was being made prior to the trial of Robert Tellis, and while we will be going over the evidence against him, which points to him being guilty of murder, he is innocent until proven guilty in the eyes of the law. If there's a case you would like to see on this channel, let me know by leaving a comment down below or emailing me at dreading.official@gmail.com. With all of that out of the way, let us begin. To those who knew Jeff German, he was a principled and fair man. He was the type of person who had a code of ethics, to do no harm to others and to call out hypocrisies where he saw them, and he believed in the betterment of the world. He was old-fashioned in his belief systems and was fascinated with fighting corruption where he saw it, and where he saw it mostly was in Las Vegas. He loved to write and was fascinated with uncovering the truth. Specifically, he was fascinated with the mafia and how they had weaved their web into the fabric of Sin City. In 2001, Jeff would publish his novel, Murder in Sin City, The Death of a Casino Boss, which was highly praised. He had a deft way of drawing his readers in, getting them invested in the story he was telling, and taking them exactly where he wanted to go. In 2020, Jeff would go on to write and host the podcast Mobbed Up, The Fight for Las Vegas, which was a collaboration between the Las Vegas Review-Journal, where he worked, and the Mob Museum. In the podcast, he would discuss the mob's sordid history with the city. The podcast was incredibly successful, getting nearly 1 million downloads by June of the following year. For over 4 decades, Jeff had worked as a columnist and journalist for multiple papers, and had a reputation for himself as the guy who refused to be bought. If he was reporting on a story, and his editor or higher-up tried to kill it, he would only pursue his hunch harder, intent on bringing the truth to light. However, this tendency would lead to him uncovering a relatively mundane secret that would get him killed. Where the majority of people in Jeff German's life spoke of him with nothing but respect, the opposite was true of Robert Tellis. According to the people closest to him, Tellis was an incredibly enterprising man, whose eyes were always fixated on whatever self-serving goal he had. He enjoyed being in positions of power, and often spoke about how he was the best person for any position. And while those are not negative traits outright, especially as an attorney, the people who knew Tellis believed that they were in his particular case. Many around him felt that Robert was delusional in his thinking, and believed he was more gifted than he was. Co-workers would describe Robert as being a tornado, destroying almost everything in his path and making life harder for them. He thought that he was innately better than those around him, and when it came to making workplace decisions, He actively hurt the people around him because he felt that he knew better than they did. Carlos Morales had gone to law school with Tellus at UNLV, and immediately Tellus began making problems. They both served on student government, and it quickly became clear that Tellus wanted to run things in his own way. He didn't care much for the opinions and thoughts of other people, and instead chose to act in a way that many believed was antithetical to the success of the student government. He refused to do things by the book, instead forcing those working under him to do things, quote, his way, which often resulted in them being done wrong. Anytime someone would miraculously do a good job despite his interference, he would take the credit for their work and would routinely throw others under the bus if he believed that they were trying to upstage him. He was obsessed with his reputation and wanted to outwardly appear as a nice, trustworthy man. Despite obsessively attacking people he seemed to believe wanted his position. He was also well known for taking advantage of his positions over people sexually. According to Morales, his time working for student government came to an end when multiple people witnessed Tellus molest a first-year law student without their consent. Morales and other witnesses reported this incident, finding it to be incredibly disturbing, but they kept the young girl's name out of their reports, as she was too nervous to come forward at the time. When Robert was made aware of these reports, he was incensed. He seemed to feel as if Morales and the other witnesses were simply trying to ruin his reputation, and went on the defensive. Robert would fly into a near-violent rage, screaming and threatening those around him. He claimed he'd never touched the girl, and instead, those reports were a planned attack by jealous rivals, meant to usurp his power as the president of student government. At this point, Morales and others who were part of the student government reported that Tellus went on a months-long campaign against them, trying to figure out the exact identity of the girl he had been seen molesting and attacking their reports. The former student body president was obsessed with destroying everyone who he believed was against him, and it seemed to be his sole driving force. He claimed again that they were just jealous, evil, power-hungry people who couldn't stand to see a man like him do well. He made up conspiracy theories as to why people were plotting against him, and genuinely felt as if it was him against the world. He threatened to sue everyone, claiming that the eyewitness reports were defamatory. When he was eventually kicked off of student government, he threatened to sue the school for their actions, and he spent months attempting to find and intimidate the first-year law student who had refused to come forward, positive that she was behind the entire ordeal. This would not be the last time Tellus would be accused of using his position over another person to pressure them sexually. This would become somewhat of a habit for the lawyer. The extreme rage, paranoia, and obsession that Robert displayed in this instance would also follow him into every aspect of his personal and professional life. Despite his negative attributes, Robert was also known to be incredibly charming when he needed to be. In his daily life, he was cruel, demeaning, and delusional, but for short periods of time, he could mask his true nature. His ultimate goal was to become the governor of Nevada, and he was well aware that he would need as many people behind him as possible to achieve his goal. He became a staple in the Las Vegas social scene, consistently attending charity events and Rotary Club events. He would talk to everyone, making sure that they knew he was an up-and-coming lawyer in the area, and notably was crowned one of the nonprofit's Pro Bono Attorneys of the Year. This award didn't mention the fact that his work on numerous pro bono cases would result in his clients being defrauded and taken advantage of. He would go on to marry Marianne Ramirez Ishmael and have 3 children, but Robert's paranoid aggressive behavior wouldn't cease. Their relationship was said to be toxic, with Robert repeatedly cheating on her with various co-workers and women he met through work. When confronted, Robert would reportedly fly into a rage. It seemed, at least to the people around Robert, that any form of criticism leveled at him was taken as an insult. The very implication that he would cheat on his wife was so offensive that if it was brought up, he would see red. However, that didn't make the assertion untrue. On February 29, 2020, Robert would fly into one of these rages, only this time he was in public. The couple had gone out for a date night at the Bellagio, wanting to spend quality time together away from the children. But sometime during the night, Robert became angry. Witnesses weren't able to recall what the pair was fighting about, but Robert appeared to be the aggressor, screaming in his wife's face until he was beat red. After some time, Marianne convinced Tellus that they should go back home, realizing that they were making a spectacle of themselves. However, the fight was far from over. Once in the car, Robert grabbed his wife by her neck and began to strangle her while shaking her. He let go a little after a minute, at which point he started breaking things inside the vehicle. When he began to drive them home, he continued his assault, punching her at least one time in the arm, and punching the steering wheel so hard they nearly swerved off the road. Multiple other drivers recalled being on the road at the same time, seeing the vehicle speed while swerving in and out of their lane. Luckily, Despite being too intoxicated to drive and in a physical altercation, they arrived home in one piece. Once there, Mary Ann repeatedly told her husband to go to sleep, hoping that he had calmed down from the fight. Their kids were reportedly already in bed, asleep, and she didn't want to wake them, but Robert didn't care. He refused to end the argument or go to bed, and instead continued screaming, repeatedly striking her and requesting that she kill him repeatedly. Mary Ann tried to escape her husband and protect her children by barricading them all in their rooms. However, Robert was able to break in, bashing the door down and chasing them throughout the house, still in a rage. At one point, according to the police report, Robert was able to grab a hold of his wife and held her in what was described as a tight bear hug. She was unable to get free from his grip, and their kids tried to fight their father off of their mother, but it was no use. He refused to let go. Thankfully, Mary Ann had been able to call the police while in her children's bedroom.
911 emergency, Orozco 17887. Do you need police, fire, or medical?
Yes, hi. Can you please send somebody here? My husband is going crazy. He's trying to make us, like, hurt him or something. And even my kids are freaking out.
What is your address?
It is 9624 Spanish Steps Lane.
And that was 9624?
Yes, Spanish Steps.
Okay, what is he doing now?
He just won't leave us alone. He had too much to drink tonight, and it's just, me and my kids are scared.
Okay, has anybody been hit or pushed, ma'am?
Well, he tried to hurt me, but it's fine. He hasn't touched me since.
No,
Okay.
I didn't touch
Nobody needs an ambulance?
No ambulance, just somebody to come.
Okay, I'm going to
calm
go ahead
down
and
or
send somebody
something.
out there. I already have the call set
Great.
up, okay? Now, what's your
Thank
husband's
you so much.
name?
Rob.
Rob? Is it Robert,
Yes.
or is it?
Yeah, Robert.
Okay, what is his last name?
K-S-T-E-L-L-E-S.
And is he white, black, Hispanic, or Asian?
He's Hispanic.
Okay, how old is he?
43.
What's his date of birth, ma'am?
76. All right, now he's calmed down now that he knows I'm talking to you.
Okay, how tall is he approximately?
5'7".
Thin, medium, heavy build?
Medium.
What color clothing does he have on today?
He's just wearing a burgundy dress shirt and boxers.
Okay, and besides the drinking, has he been doing any drugs, or does he have any weapons on him?
No, just the drinking.
Okay. And what is your first name?
May, M-A-E.
And your last name, May?
Ismael, I-S-M-A-E-L.
I'm sorry, spell that for me again.
I-S-M-A-E-L.
Thank you. And a good phone number?
This number?
Thank you. Okay. And you said he's calmed down right now?
Yeah, now he's calmed down. He's putting his pants on. I think he might leave.
Okay. If he does leave, what color, make, and model is the vehicle he would be leaving in?
A brown BMW X3.
Okay. Is it a 2-door, 4-door?
It's a 4-door.
Is it older or newer?
Newer.
Okay. Do you know the plate number by any chance?
I don't.
No worries. That's fine. Okay. I do have a call set up. If he does happen to leave, just give us a call back to let us know. And, if you know where he's going or what direction he's leaving in, just give us that information as well, okay? But I do have a call set up for officers to respond.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The following is the police body cam footage from his arrest.
I'm not trying to breathe, I'm not trying to breathe. The family's in there.
Alright, do you want to hold him here? I'll bring my car up. Don't do anything more stupid than you've already done, please.
Oh my God, what the hell am I?
Our cameras are on.
Cameras, can anybody tell me who I hit? Who the hell did I hit?
Hold him while I double up.
Who did I hit? Because I didn't hit anybody. Who did I hit? Who did I hit? Because I didn't hit anybody. This is totally you guys just want to take me down because I'm a public official.
No, we
Who
don't.
Did I hit? No, I didn't hit anybody. I didn't touch anybody. You guys just want to take me down because I am a public official. You just want to take me down because I'm a public official. I did not touch anybody. I haven't hurt anybody. I am just being approached, and like you guys just want to take me down because I'm a public official. That's it. I'm a public official.
I'm sure your supervisors will love to see this bloody damage when they see it.
I'm a public official, and that's all you want to do is take me down for being a public official. Why did you take me down? I haven't touched anybody. I haven't hurt anybody.
It looks like it's broken.
This is a civil rights violation. You guys just want to take me down. I haven't touched anybody. This is my home. I haven't hurt anybody. I haven't touched anybody. I love my family. I love my wife. You guys want to take me down. That's all it is. Why are you taking me away from my friggin' house? Why do you have any suspicious...
Sit back.
I'm... Why do you have any cost to take me home? Why do you have any cost to take me?
You're not making any sense right now. Dude.
Do you have any cost to take me?
Brian.
Do you have any cost to take me?
This seatbelt's being stupid.
What does it cost to take me?
So I can go to the other side.
I've been touched anyone. I've not touched anyone. I've not touched anyone. I'm just telling you too. I haven't touched anyone. Here you go. I have not touched anyone. I've not touched anyone.
You guys caught me at a red truck too, and I was on town center, and it's basically Sahara.
Hold on.
I heard you guys call the sound. I'm like, give us one. I'm like...
This event should have been the end of his career. A public servant had assaulted his wife and terrorized his children, but instead, this instance was swept under the rug. He was able to get the domestic violence charge down, and the issue was never publicized. That is, until 2022.
Tell us.
Let's go ahead and call the case. Robert Tellis, C1226980A and B, and time set for trial.
Judge, it's been resolved.
Okay.
We're going to submit on the B count.
B as in boy?
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
There'll be a 90-day suspended sentence with a 6-month fraud stay out of trouble order. The defendant will do the corrective thinking course, pay a bail forfeiture in the amount of $418, and if successful, the charge will be dismissed. Count A is dismissed today pursuant to negotiations based on witness issues.
Very well. Mr. Goodman, is that a correct statement of the resolution?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So, Mr. Tellis, are you agreeable with this resolution?
Yes, Your Honor.
You do have the right to have a trial where the prosecution has the burden of proving the case beyond a reasonable doubt. By accepting the resolution, obviously you're giving up that right. Do you understand that?
I do, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions before I make it official?
No, Your Honor.
All right. As such, sir, this will be what we call a submittal on the record for the original charge of resisting a public officer, requiring you to do basically 3 things over the next 6 months. First thing you'll need to do is stay out of trouble, and we call that a broad stay out of trouble. No new criminal offenses, no arrests, no citations. You'll have to attend, pay for, and complete the corrective thinking class, which is given online. It costs $60. You also need to post $418. We call this a bail forfeiture amount, but basically it's a fine to you in that amount, $418. And if you do all these things, you'll get the best result that you can get out of a criminal matter, and that is the dismissal. If you fail, you will have the conviction of resisting a public officer without the benefit of trial, as well as 90 days of jail to credit. Just to make sure that's what you've agreed to again, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's a good deal. Keep it in your hands, out of mine. Agreed?
I agree, Your Honor.
All right. We'll go ahead and get you that 6-month return date. The A charge, as discussed, will be dismissed.
March 30th at 8:30 for status check.
March 30th, 2021 at 8:30. We'll go ahead and get you the return slip. You get the referrals?
I got this. I think this is probably what I need. Or they can go to the 4th floor, but that has the information how they can sign up for the class online.
So it is a new class. We think that is the appropriate information. And good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good day, Your Honor.
You too.
Okay, bye.
As Robert stated multiple times during his arrest, he worked as an elected official in Clark County. More specifically, he worked as the public administrator. As noted on clarkcounty.gov, the public administrator serves two important functions. They secure property of people who have passed away while a search for family or the decedent's executor is performed. Tellis assumed the office in 2019 when he ran unopposed for the position, but like he had in every other aspect of his life, he came into the position like a tornado. He didn't care for the established rules and regulations, nor did he care for the mental health and the well-being of those working with him. Instead, he wanted to do things his way. What his way entailed changed every day. Some days, he was in a good mood. He was willing to work with his peers, allowing them to go by the book and help the people of Nevada. But on most days, he would come in a rage, already upset at the people working under him, and completely unwilling to help anyone. The men and women who worked under him had been there for years at that point and watched as their workplace turned into a place they no longer recognized. There was no talking to Robert, they found, as any concerns they tried to raise would cause him to fly into a rage, believing they were trying to undermine him. The environment got so bad that at numerous points, his employees tried to go over his head and complain to the higher-ups about what Robert was doing. They wanted someone to come in and guide Robert and inform him that the way he was behaving wasn't appropriate and teach him how to create a cohesive work environment. But even then, nothing was done. The only way that they could improve their workplace, they were told, was to either run against him in the upcoming election or to get him removed from office. Feeling as if they had nowhere else to go, multiple of Robert's employees would resolve to talk to a man that they felt was able to showcase Robert's negative behavior for what it was, and that man was Jeff German. On May 16, 2022, Jeff published his article, County Office in Turmoil with Secret Video and Claims of Bullying, Hostility to the Las Vegas Review-Journal. The following is that article. The Clark County Public Administrator's Office has been mired in turmoil and internal dissension over the past 2 years, with allegations of emotional stress, bullying, and favoritism leading to secret videotaping of the boss and a coworker outside of the office. A half-dozen former and current employees interviewed by the Review-Journal are alleging the hostile work environment was fueled by the elected administrator of the office, Robert Tellis, carrying on an inappropriate relationship with a staffer that has harmed the office's ability to deal with the public and overseeing the estates of those who have died. The staffer, Roberta Lee Kinnett, 45, has acted in some cases as an office supervisor beyond her assigned duties as one of the several estate coordinators because of her favored status with Tellis, the employee said. Because of the brewing animosity, the top supervisor under Tellis, Rita Reed, decided to run against him in this year's Democratic primary, and several employees took the bold step of secretly videotaping Tellis and Lee Kinnett meeting in the back seat of her car at a parking garage to show proof of the relationship. One employee filed a retaliation complaint with the court against Tellis on May 9th, records show. Both Lee Kennett and Tellis, 45, an attorney, strongly denied having any improper relationship but acknowledged that they have become friends. Tellis said he has relied on Lee Kennett's support while making office improvements resisted by employees from the previous administration. Both are married. Tellis blames a handful of old-timers for exaggerating the extent of the relationship and falsely claiming that he has been mistreating them. He said they have filed complaints against him with the county in the past that were not substantiated, and he questioned the timing of the latest accusations as he seeks a second term in office. The office tension was felt during a recent visit, as employees loyal to Tellis explained that there were two factions, a group of mostly new workers hired by Tellis and the other group with ties to the former public administrator, John Cahill, who retired in January 2019 after 12 years. John, who endorsed Tellis in 2019, is now backing Reed and voicing concerns about the well-being of the workers. The office has 8 full-time employees, 3 part-time support staffers, and roughly 15 part-time investigators who spend most of their days in the field. When someone dies and there are no immediate family members to deal with the estate, the office takes possession of the property and investigators attempt to locate relatives so the property can be turned over to them. Emotional stress claims. Members of the warring office factions say they have suffered emotional stress, which in some cases have impaired their physical health. Assistant Public Administrator Reed includes herself among those affected by the upheaval. Reed, who has worked in the office for 15 years, said she jumped into the race knowing she faces an uphill primary battle with Tellis on June 14th. Her office is right next to his in the building at 515 Shadow Lane. I came to the decision not very easily because it affects my life dramatically, Reed said, but I want to do whatever I can to let the voters know that this is not the right man to be in charge of any department. We're always on guard and we're always under stress. All of the people in his office deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, and the people we serve deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. Holdover staffers said they secretly videotaped Tellis and Lee Kennett after work several times, slipping into the back of her Nissan Rogue earlier this year in the shadows of a high-rise mall parking garage. The staffers said they recorded the clandestine meetings to offer proof to county officials of the office dividing relationship. The Review Journal has obtained and viewed videos of the meetings. This is unacceptable, disgusting behavior for a public servant, a state coordinator, Alicia Goodwin, said in the confidential retaliation complaint. Physical contact with a subordinate in a public place and letting that subordinate use favoritism she is getting from these inappropriate meetings to secure power and privileges above others in the office is affecting most of the staff in an extremely negative manner. Tellis responded that Lee Kennett, who also worked under Cahill, is simply one of the people he can lean on. While he has tried to change the office atmosphere, he said he caught Reed spying on him in the past, an allegation she denied. Both Tellis and Lee Kennett acknowledged driving separately to the parking structure at the Las Vegas North Premium Outlets Mall several times earlier this year and entering the backseat of her car. They said they only talked about the problems in the office and only hugged each other. Inappropriate relationship denied. I think it's horrible that they recorded this, and they're trying to destroy my life and my marriage, when I'm actually infinitely in love with my wife, Tellis said. I was trying to get things off my chest with someone who understands, and now it's being framed as though I'm cheating on my wife. Lee Kennett added, I have not had an inappropriate relationship with him. I would not be friends with a man who thinks he's going to have an inappropriate relationship with me. When asked why the duo didn't go to lunch or somewhere else, less secretive, to privately discuss work, Lee Kennett said they can't do that without someone in the office making assumptions about them. She said she suggested going to the backseat of the car because she wanted to make sure Tellis would listen to her concerns face to face. Tellis said the meeting location, which is across the street from the Clark County Government Center on South Grand Central Parkway, probably was chosen out of paranoia because of the discord in the office. Goodwin denied to comment about the claims of bullying and favoritism, but in her 19-page complaint filed with the Clark County Office of Diversity, she provided details of Tellis' relationship with Lee Kennett, the videotaping, and his alleged micromanagement of the full-time workers. The county has failed to protect employees from a mentally and emotionally abusive situation that has continued now for 2 years plus, and the mental and physical health ramifications have been felt by most of the full-time employees in this department of only 8 full-time employees, Goodwin wrote. Goodwin, who's been in the office for about 5 years, also alleges in the complaint that Tellis is discriminating against her because she is Mormon and has retaliated against her since she filed a discrimination complaint with the county in 2020. Tellis denies these allegations. According to her new complaint, staffers first saw Tellis and Lee Kennett getting close to each other in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. He moved into a cubicle next to hers. Then they began taking walks and having lunch together. Lee Kennett also observed having numerous closed-door meetings with Tellis, where they were heard giggling. No other employees were allowed inside his office, which only has windows to view the outside of the building, the complaint says. Lee Kennett has since acted with assumed authority, power, and privileges since the two began their personal relationship, Goodwin wrote in her complaint. Their behavior has very negatively affected most of the others in our department. A county spokesman declined to comment on the complaint, saying it was a personal matter, and Deputy County Manager Jeff Wells, who oversees the Public Administrator's Office, was not made available for an interview. Because Tellis is an elected official, the county has no authority to discipline him, but it does monitor how employees are treated. Health of employees questioned. Former boss Cahill said he is worried about the impact the alleged bullying is having on employee health and their dealings with the public. These employees talk daily with the people who have lost a loved one and their families, he said. It's an emotional, stressful job, and to add a hostile working atmosphere to it is unacceptable. Cahill was also critical of the county's failure to stop the alleged abuse. They're being harassed and the county doesn't seem to care, he said, and I just think that that's nonsense. These employees are still county employees who have the rights of county employees. They're not his private employees. Some holdover staffers interviewed by the Review-Journal cried while sharing details of their troubled work environment. Some asked to remain anonymous out of fear of retaliation. According to the workers, Tellis has a temper and demeans holdover employees. He assigns them unnecessary work, has set unrealistic performance goals, won't respond to questions they have about their changing duties, and tries to dig up dirt on them. He also prohibits them from using cell phones at work and discourages them from socializing and gossiping in the office. Anyone who questions his authority is chastised, the workers said. The employees contend they are constantly worried that they won't properly follow his sometimes confusing directives and could be reprimanded or verbally abused. One worker said she eats a bag lunch every day in her car because she doesn't want to be seen socializing with staffers who aren't among Tellis's favorites. Janelle Lee, a part-time investigator, said the office environment is one of the worst she has ever seen. She has her own live event company and has spent years putting on entertainment events on the Strip. He literally works to create division in the office, she said. He's so vindictive and so horrible. Everybody looks like they're in a CYA situation all the time. People are depressed, they're physically ill. One staffer told me, I'd rather have a colonoscopy every day than come here and deal with him. Janie Osuzik, who worked as an executive assistant for 4 public administrators for over 30 years, said she retired in April because she got frustrated with the hostile environment. You always had to be on guard, and it made the office uncomfortable because you knew there were certain people who would run to Tellis on everything, even with lies, and he would accept it as true, she said. He would storm into my office and accuse me of things and never take the time to investigate anything. She said she once got so stressed that she had to take a leave to deal with the migraines. Those of us who were not in his favor felt that we weren't appreciated, even after all those years of working in the office. She said, it was a miserable place to work. Reed said she has dealt with headaches, stomach aches, and depression under what she called constant browbeating by Tellis. When you beat people up, there's only so much energy and services they can provide, she said. You spend so much time combating these challenges and accusations and reprimands, it knocks you in the gut. It's like, here we go again, another lie, and you have to try to protect yourself. Reed is also convinced that the relationship between Tellis and Lee Kennett is responsible for the office conflict and has contributed to Tellis's efforts to strip her of much of her administrative duties. His relationship with her is harmful to the operations in the office, Reed said. She has become more and more powerful and noticeable. If she didn't like something, boom, she'd be marching into his office and there would be some change. Tellis disputes the claims of hostility from Reed and the other veteran employees. These allegations that I've chained people to the wall or something are bogus, he said. They make it sound as though everybody is miserable in the office. I've done my best to try to be as nice and friendly this whole time. For whatever reason, they just seem to want things to go back to the way they were, serving the interests of a few. Before I got there, this office was in a horrible, horrible state. Among the changes Tellis said he has made are closing estate cases faster and cutting back on large amounts of tax-funded overtime employees were getting under Cahill. He provided a document that showed one veteran employee received more than $140,000 in overtime between 2017 and 2018. That was on top of the employee's combined $150,000 regular salary for those those years. The employee's overtime dropped to roughly $13,500 in 2020 under Telus, according to the document. Lee Kennett, who sits in a cubicle similar to other state coordinators and employees, said the disgruntled staffers are responsible for creating the drama. Rob is walking on eggshells because of all of them. We all are, she said. There's no accountability on their part. Nicole Lofton, an estate coordinator for the past year, said the old guard acts like a little gang and has tried to isolate her. Lofton said she has suffered from migraines from stress. They told me from the beginning to pick a side, she said, adding that Telus does everything he can to help her succeed while the other group wants her to fail. Ariana Payne, another Telus loyalist who works as a full-time office assistant, said that she has seen the increased production of the office. The office is running a lot smoother, she said. We're closing a lot of cases. But she said there's also been a definite divide. There's talk of them versus us, and it shouldn't be that way. We have a duty to do. Alicia Goodwin provides details in her retaliation complaint of what employees claimed they saw when they observed Telus and Lee Kennett at the Premium Outlets parking structure between February and March. We were then able to take photos and video from afar, Goodwin writes. We also were able to secure several instances where they met up in a parking garage, driving separately in their individual vehicles and staying from 1.5 to 2.5 hours on each visit. In one video, the footage shows Telus and Lee Kennett in the back seat of her Nissan Rogue. The video appears to show two heads through the tinted black window joining together before the couple leaves the back seat. Telus leaves first, walking away without looking back. Lee Kennett exits the car seconds later and gets in the front seat. Neither person acknowledges the other outside of the car. We're being put through all of this because he's having a private thing, one employee said. I don't think he should be allowed to run a county department. He's mismanaged so many things. This is a horrible abuse of public trust. To say the article caused an uproar in the public administrator's office would be inaccurate, as every paranoid delusion that Robert had ever had just been confirmed. Despite the video showing him and his subordinate in a compromising position, the testimony of his staff, and the proof of his unprofessional behavior, Robert felt as if he was being unjustly penalized. He was being attacked and criticized, not because he did anything wrong, but because he was surrounded by opportunistic snakes who all wanted what he had. He seemed entirely unable to process that he had done anything wrong in this situation, and responded to the claims with anger. The article had served its purpose, though, as it brought Robert's unprofessional behavior to the public's attention, sparking an investigation done by Telus' superiors. In order to verify that the claims made in the article were true, they placed Mike Murphy in the office. That way, he could observe what the working conditions were like. If they were as toxic as Rita and the other employees had said, he would no doubt bear witness to it. But if they were lying and trying to make Robert look bad, he would be able to see that as well. Once again, Jeff wrote about the investigation and the fallout from his initial article for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. But in doing so, he became Telus' enemy. Telus began to characterize Gehrman as being an angry, vindictive man who was obsessed with him for some reason. He was unable to grasp that Gehrman had simply been doing his job, which is following a story, and instead tried to claim that the reporter was a malicious stalker who wanted to be him. On June 17th, 2022, Robert would post the following angry letter on his campaign website, titled, Addressing the False Claims Against Me. While many of you have contacted me with support, I know that some may believe the allegations made in the article by the local right-wing paper. You may believe that I have betrayed your trust. You may believe that I am not the man that I have always portrayed myself to be. Some of you may not know all the good work that I have done for Las Vegas. I hope by the end of this page you will see what I know to be true. The article was false. The article was intentionally gut-wrenching. It was so ugly that you almost had to believe it was true. I can understand why you might have, with the writer's skill at pushing buttons. Also, the timing of the article was very convenient for my opponent, Rita Reed. My hope now is to present the facts to you so that you may reconsider your opinion if you believed the article to be true. Number 1, the people in the article would have you believe that I could mistreat them for years without action from Clark County. Clark County has no tolerance for abusive behavior. Furthermore, the commissioners are very serious about protecting employees' rights. They certainly would not have stood for it if I was mistreating the employees. Number 2, they failed to mention SEIU in the article. The majority of these employees are SEIU members. If I was mistreating the employees in any way, SEIU would have held me and Clark County accountable. Number 3, they would have you believe the only remedy possible for my removal is to have the voters vote me out and vote for my opponent from the office. However, that is not true. There are currently investigations going on as to the actions of all the actors in this matter. I know that Clark County will find that I have done nothing wrong. Nonetheless, if they were to find that I was acting the way that was claimed, I would be referred to the state for removal. You might then ask, what has motivated people to lie about me if I have done nothing wrong? Obviously, the lengths to which Rita Reed and these individuals have gone is incredible. They are seeking to destroy me both personally and professionally. I can tell you what I know. Number 1, I made significant changes in structure and operating procedures, increasing efficiency over their objections that it is not the way things were done. Number 2, after increasing efficiency, I cut overtime for the employees. One employee made around double her salary for several years before I cut the overtime off. They were not happy. Number 3, I have held employees accountable using Clark County approved forms of discipline when actions were either intentional or grossly negligent, such that they costed the taxpayers money. Number 4, I set expectations that employees not spend the majority of the workday chatting. While I stated on several occasions they could no longer do that, I still yet emphasized that it was fine to take 10 minutes here and there to chat, on top of the breaks and lunches that are available to them. Number 5, beyond what I did above, 2 of the employees were promised promotions if my opponent from the office won. Another employee, a part-time employee, was promised a full-time position. After my opponent from the office, Rita Reed, announced her candidacy, her supporters in the office began to ramp up interference with our operations. After the article, this included harassing other employees in the office. Tragically, these other employees have suffered mental and physical effects, and at this point, nothing can be done while the investigations are going on. It is upsetting to see the real harassment going on that will never be in the paper. Unfortunately, my hands have been tied for now. I believe my opponent and her followers were goading me into disciplining them for the harassment so they can run back to the newspaper for another article. When my assistant county manager offered to have Mike Murphy come in as my assistant, I immediately accepted the help. Having a third-party observer in the office would keep these people from continuing their hostility in the office. In my written statement, link at the end of the page, I noted that Mike Murphy was coming in as my assistant public administrator. However, the article did not say that. The reporter wanted to make it sound as though Mike Murphy was a babysitter for me, not my opponent and her supporters. As I mentioned earlier, there is a remedy for removing me, even if I win re-election, and I am found to have done wrong. On the other hand, I believe Rita Reed and her supporters in the office see this as their last chance to get what they want. Also, I am sure Rita Reed is counting on a win so she can shield her supporters from being disciplined for their actions against the other employees for the past couple of months. If I win, I will be certain that Clark County is directly involved in any discipline that results from the findings of county's investigations. I will be sure SEIU is involved as well, as they can be sure that the rights of all the employees are protected during the process. I have worked for years to help people, both professionally and in the community. A look at my website, my social media, and LinkedIn show just some of the good work that I have done. I believe there are people who will find it hard to reconcile these claims in the article with what I have done in my life. That is because the article is false. I am still campaigning hard to win this race. I have maintained all my union endorsements, and I continue to receive endorsements after the article. I have been working with other candidates to spread the word. I am working hard to win re-election, and I believe I will win. Sincerely, Rob Tellis. P.S. I had hoped the truth would come out publicly. At one point, I sought legal counsel to see if legal action was an option. Unfortunately, it appears that this would have only done more harm than good. Suing a newspaper like the Las Vegas Review-Journal is near impossible. Suing my own employees is not a good option either. Also, given the newspaper's leaning, it is unlikely that they would publish a letter to the editor from me. I emailed information to another news outlet, but it seems they were not interested in the story. Frankly, it seems that no other news outlet was interested in picking up this story from any viewpoint, which further speaks to its credibility. After the blog was made, the county's investigation into Tellis came to an end, and they found the article had been accurate in its portrayal of Robert's behavior. He would actively penalize some of the staff for misbehavior, flying into a rage when they were caught talking. He would refuse to allow them to help some residents, purposely blocking them from doing their jobs, but he would treat other staffers completely differently. It was clear that there was a divide in the office, and that Robert had been the cause of it. The report and its findings only seemed to anger Robert. He thought his managerial style would have been validated, that the county would have supported his ill treatment of some of his works, on the grounds that he had saved them money, but the fact that they had turned the situation around on him to make him look like the bad guy was too much for him. Prior to the election being called, Robert added to his blog post, writing, "At this point, I do believe I will lose this race, and I am looking forward to going back to the practice of probate law where I can continue to help families. Why then provide this update? Well, I have always believed in justice and doing the right thing. I know it may sound naive, but that is how I feel. I believe it is important to lay out the truth, only to share with you what really occurred here. It makes no other difference at this point. If you are reading what I am writing here to find something about which you can be upset, I am sure you will find it here. If you are interested in learning more about all of this, you will find that too. Frankly, when I entered the office, I had hoped to rally the team. I wanted to fix what was wrong with the office and show the team that there was a better way. Unfortunately, some of the team preferred to stoke fears amongst themselves that I wanted to fire them. In hindsight, it was to justify to themselves what they were going to do to me. For my part, I sent encouraging emails and often thanked all the team members for their efforts in person. I did my best to recognize them for their good work. Unfortunately, that was just not good enough for some people. Now, you might think that I am no longer going to be in the office at the end of this term, that the people in the article would be satisfied no matter who won the race for public administrator. However, Rita must win if she is going to make good on promotions for her supporters. If Rita does not win, then her position will not be vacated. Then the employee who wanted her position will not get it. This person wanted to work in that position for 3 years to obtain a much higher monthly payment in retirement. For that reason, Jeff Gehrman and John Cahill may not be done trying to drag me through the mud. To ensure that Democrats rally around Rita, they would have to turn most Democratic voters against me, even now when I should be irrelevant. Don't be surprised if the articles keep coming. Through all of these articles, I have found the support of my family and friends. Despite what Jeff Gehrman and John Cahill have tried to do to me personally, I have been backed up by love and support that helped me to keep fighting for re-election. While I have lost, I still yet have that love and support. I am grateful for those who know me and believe in me, for the voters and organizations who maintained their support, and the people who tried to help me win the race. Continued public office was clearly not on the cards for me. There are so many other ways that people are involved in the community without holding public office. I look forward to continuing my work for the community in these other capacities. However, despite his angry letter and fierce campaigning, Robert would end up losing his re-election bid, coming in third out of the 3 individuals running, one of which did absolutely no campaigning. As he was already covering the election, Jeff wrote about the results, as well as Tellis's blog post, which only seemed to anger the former elected official more. He went on Twitter to vent his frustration, accusing Jeff of being two-faced. He wrote, "Does the @LVRJ know that @JGarman_RJ may be doing double duty on their dime? Did they know he basically made a veiled threat to make me take down my site with the truth after I had already lost the election? #Las Vegas. However, the screenshot he posted showed no such threat or malice. Instead, it just showed the journalist asking him for a comment for his article. After he had lost the election, Robert seemed to feel as if he had nothing else to lose, and began to directly antagonize the reporter on Twitter. When it became clear that Jeff was going to be writing a 4th article on Tellis, going over the entire scandal, his loss, and his continued downward spiral, Tellis tweeted, "Wife hears rustling in her trash. Her. Honey, is there a wild animal in the trash? Me. No, dear, it looks like it's Jeff Gehrman going through our trash for his 4th story on me. Oh, Jeff. Crying emoji, #Las Vegas. Looking forward to Lying Smear Piece number 4 by Jeff Gehrman. #One Trick Pony. I think he's mad that I haven't crawled into a hole and died. Crying laughing emoji. #Las Vegas. Oh shoot, I left my pizza box and sushi containers in the trash. In the next article, I'm going to have mob and Yakuza ties. Crying laughing emoji. Ha 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 ha. Sick burn, Robert. Typical bully. Can't take a pound of criticism after slinging 100 pounds of BS. Up to article number 4 now. You'd think he'd have better things to do. Winky licky emoji, or whatever that is." He updated his blog, this time with accusations against Rita, the woman who had successfully been elected to his position. But it seemed, at least from an outside point of view, that the situation had died down. Gehrman would go on to write other stories, report the news, as he always had. However, he didn't realize that the man he had reported on had committed to ending his life. Robert Tellis's response to losing re-election had been interesting to watch. He had actively attacked the character of his staff, texted multiple staff members vague threats, and had utilized his blog, Twitter, and Facebook to attack the character of people who had, at one time, supported him, even men he had networked with the hope that they would be assets for his eventual campaign to become governor were attacked, as well as called duplicitous and mocked mercilessly. Gehrman had worked as a reporter for 4 decades and knew from past experience that the story with Tellus was far from over. This was a man who had worked tirelessly to get where he was, and he wanted to uncover all of the friends he had lost and the people he had left dead and bloodied along the way, so to speak. With that in mind, Gehrman made additional public record requests relating to any information on Tellus. These requests included emails between Tellus and his employees, records of misconduct in the office, and would prove that Tellus was not only abusive to his workers, but carried out inappropriate sexual relationships while working. Robert was already in a heightened state since losing the election. He was embarrassed, but more importantly, he was angry. His life, his plan, everything he had worked towards was now destroyed, and he believed that it was the fault of 2 people, Rita Reed, who still worked under him and ran against him, and Jeff Gehrman. On August 28th, he sent Reed a string of text messages, not unlike those he had sent before. The messages read, "You've made a deal with the devil. You've ruined my life's path and damaged the office. You will have to live with everything that has been done here." He had sent messages like this to her before, damning her to hell and telling her she was going to die alone, so she ignored them for the most part. She wasn't aware of Tellus's violent past, and she believed that she was safe, but she had no idea what he was capable of. Days later, at 7:30 a.m. on September 2nd, 2022, Tellus received an email from the Clark County Attorney's Office informing him that the county was planning on releasing the emails between him and his former mistress to Gehrman, citing his information request. Less than 4 hours later, Jeff Gehrman would be murdered in cold blood. At 9:12 a.m., Tellus left his home, driving his wife's maroon GMC Yukon Denali, as confirmed on neighbors' Ring doorbell cameras. At 10:54, a car matching that description was seen parking near Jeff's home. A man was captured walking to and from the car. He was wearing a wide-brimmed straw hat, a neon long-sleeve safety shirt, and a large blue duffel bag. The outfit was strange and drew a fair amount of attention to the man, especially on surveillance footage. The man in the strange outfit then walked into Gehrman's side yard at 11:18 a.m. What he did there was anyone's guess, but after 5 minutes of waiting, the reporter would eventually walk outside himself. At that point, he was immediately attacked by the knife-wielding stranger. The attack was quick, and the strange man left immediately, jumping back into the maroon car that matched Tellus's wife's vehicle. Gehrman would be found the following day by a neighbor, dead of multiple stab wounds. Jeff Gehrman was well loved in the city of Las Vegas. He had worked with law enforcement before, uncovering corruption and making sure that the city of sin wasn't quite as sinful. His murder was immediately labeled major designation status, and the investigation into what happened became high priority, and within days, they had already had their first and only suspect. The investigation into Jeff Gehrman's murder was somewhat simple. When his peers were asked if Jeff had any enemies, they were all quick to inform police of his escalating issues with Tellus, and how the former elected official had accused him of threatening him, and how he had been the target of his ire since losing the election. The police quickly found the surveillance footage of the man who killed Gehrman in the vehicle he was driving, and noted that Tellus fit the general description and had access to the same vehicle. At this point, they were all well aware that Tellus was likely the murderer, but also realized that they would need to have a well-thought-through plan to move forward. Tellus had worked in the legal system, and interrogating him the same way that they would interrogate someone without legal knowledge would go nowhere. Instead, they opted to put some of the information they had gained out to the public, with the hopes that the knowledge that he and his wife's car had been seen on camera multiple times would scare him. They wanted him afraid and nervous. That way, if they were to bring him in, he would be more likely to make a mistake. On September 6th, just 4 days after Gehrman's murder, police held a press conference where they showed a maroon GMC Yukon Denali and released a video clip of the suspect walking. They urged the public for tips, asking viewers to take notice of how strangely the person was walking. At once, like the police had predicted, people immediately began to publicly accuse Tellus. The fact that he fit the general description and his wife had the same car was too coincidental, and all of his threatening texts, tweets, and messages pointed directly his way. Later on that same day, the Review-Journal sent reporters to Tellus's home, where they confronted him about matching the description. But Tellus stayed silent. The very next day, any reservation that Tellus hadn't been the man in the neon shirt would go out the window, as Gehrman had struck Tellus during the murder and had managed to get a fair bit of his DNA stuck under his fingernails. Coworkers and friends would go on to state that his years of crime reporting had taught him to fight back, and in the end, it was his actions that caught the killer. That same day, police arrived at Tellis's home at 6:30 a.m. with a search warrant. They towed both of his vehicles and brought him into the station for an interview. As of today, that interview has not been made public. Following that interview, Tellis was arrested and charged with Jeff German's murder. As of today, Robert Tellis remains in custody pending trial, which is set to begin April 2023. The investigation into him has also uncovered the fact that he had misappropriated his client's funds in the past, and that he might have participated in a kickback scheme tied to house flipping. However, details about that have yet to be confirmed. Hopefully, in April, we see justice done in this case. Jeff German was a powerful writer and an honest man. He spent his life working to fix corrupt systems and bring light into dark situations. He got involved with Tellis after being made aware of the strife he had brought into his workplace and sought to defend the men and women who worked under him. He deserves justice. If you have made it to this part of the video, thank you for watching. Again, this is part 1. And a second part will be out following the trial. If you like this video and want to see the next portion, like and subscribe. If there's a video you would like to see made, leave a comment down below or email me at dreading.official@gmail.com. With all of that said, have a great day and stay safe.